She told her pastor I was possessive. That's what echoed in my head. A broken record playing during the Sunday service. Back row, St. Matthew's in Charlotte, the cheap seats of heartbreak. Sarah was up there, pretending to lead the congregation in song, a hymn of hypocrisy. 3 weeks. That's all it took. 3 weeks after I walked out. After her accusations and endless work commitments, she was knocked up by Chad, the office charmer. I could practically smell the guilt wafting off her like cheap perfume, mingling with the stale air of forced piety. But God wasn't fooled, and neither was I anymore. Before the back row confessionals and Chad's little swimmer winning the race, there was us. Mark and Sarah. Charlotte dreamin'. We had the 2-story house in Ballantyne, the 2-car garage, hers always Messier, and the golden retriever named Cooper, who, ironically, had better instincts about people than I did. Sarah was a marketing manager, all smiles and corporate buzzwords. Me? I crunched numbers for a living, an accountant. Stability. That's what I thought we had. Looking back, the cracks were there from the start, subtle fissures in our perfect facade. The cracks widened when Pastor Dave entered the picture. Sarah started attending women's group every Wednesday night, conveniently scheduled during poker night with the boys. At first, it seemed harmless, church stuff. Then, she started quoting Pastor Dave like he was the second coming. Mark, Pastor Dave says I need to express my feelings more. Or, Pastor Dave thinks we should pray more as a couple. What I didn't know was that she was using Pastor Dave as a shield, a holy smokescreen to justify her growing distance, whispering poison in his ear about my possessiveness. Looking back, I was blind, man. Textbook. The phone glued to her hand, angled away from me, the hushed whispers when I entered the room. Just talking to Mom, she'd say. But her mom lived in Boca and had the conversational range of a goldfish. Then there were the late nights at the office, conveniently coinciding with Chad's extended hours. I'd bring her dinner. A concerned boyfriend, only to find her and Chad brainstorming over lukewarm pizza, a little too close for comfort. But I trusted her. Fool me once. Chad. Ugh. The guy used corporate charm. The kind that's meticulously crafted in a business school marketing class. All slick back hair, expensive cologne that smelled suspiciously like Axe body spray trying to be sophisticated. And a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. Sarah ate it up. He'd linger a little too long during conversations, his hand grazing her arm, that faux innocent accidental touch. I chalked it up to workplace dynamics, trying to be the cool, understanding boyfriend. Now I realize I was just being a chump. Whenever I tried to bring up my concerns, the waterworks would start. You're being so insecure, Mark. I can't believe you don't trust me. Classic gaslighting. Or she'd flip the script. It's not about Chad. It's about us. You're not emotionally available enough. Anything to avoid accountability. It was like arguing with a sentient bowl of Jell-O, impossible to get a grip on. And Pastor Dave? He was always subtly on our side, offering vague platitudes about communication and understanding. I was outmatched. I couldn't breathe anymore. The constant suspicion, the lies, the subtle digs, it was suffocating me. So, I did what any self-respecting accountant would do. I ran the numbers. The relationship's ROI was in the negative. I told her I was done. No shouting, no tears from me. Anyway, just a quiet. I'm leaving, Sarah. I can't do this anymore. She acted shocked, of course, played the victim card to perfection. But Mark, we can work through this. Too late. The foundation was rotten. 3 weeks. I'd barely finished boxing up my stuff when I got the text. A sonogram picture, tiny and blurry, with the caption, "God works in mysterious ways." Sparkling heart baby, my blood ran cold. The math didn't add up. Unless, suddenly, all those late nights at the office snapped into focus. I called her, a mix of anger and disbelief churning in my stomach. "It's Chad's, isn't it?" The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, "A week. We can talk about this." Talk? There was nothing left to talk about. So there I was, back in St. Matthew's. I needed to see it for myself. The sheer audacity of it all. Sarah, glowing, or maybe just nauseous, singing hymns like she hadn't just torched our lives. Pastor Dave gave a sermon about forgiveness, and I swear, he kept glancing my way. The forced piety was thick enough to choke on. My resentment grew with each verse, each carefully chosen word designed to paint Sarah as a victim. A woman blessed despite her challenges. God wasn't fooled, and neither was I. The initial shock was like a punch to the gut, followed by the slow burn of grief. Sleepless nights. Replaying every moment, searching for what I missed. Then came the anger, a white-hot rage directed at Sarah, Chad, even Pastor Dave, that sanctimonious fraud. But beneath the anger, a realization began to dawn. This wasn't just about Sarah cheating. It was about a pattern, a playbook I hadn't recognized. A slow, insidious realization that women, or at least some women, operate on a different set of rules. That's when I called Dave, Kevin, and Mike, the boys. Poker night, but this time, no cards. Just cheap beer and brutal honesty. They'd seen it coming, of course. "Dude, she was totally playing you," Kevin said, never one for subtlety. "Remember when she said she needed space to find herself?" Classic. Mike chimed in with his own horror stories. Tales of emotional manipulation and financial exploitation. Suddenly, I wasn't alone in this. I was part of a club, a brotherhood of the betrayed. It was like Neo seeing the Matrix for the first time. Suddenly, the code was clear. Her constant need for validation on social media, the way she pitted me against other men, her expertly crafted victim narratives, it all clicked into place. I started recognizing the manipulation tactics, the subtle power plays disguised as needs or feelings. I'd been played, bamboozled, hoodwinked. And the worst part? I let it happen. But not anymore. The red pill wasn't just swallowed. It was lodged firmly in my throat. And then there was the money. Oh, the money. I'd always been the responsible one, saving, investing. Sarah? Not so much. The occasional shopping sprees that somehow maxed out the credit cards, the urgent need for a new designer bag, the constant pressure to upgrade our lifestyle. I justified it as making her happy, but now I see it for what it was, a slow, calculated drain on my resources. I was a walking ATM, and she'd been withdrawing funds with ruthless efficiency. Remember that promotion I turned down? The one that would have meant relocating to Atlanta, a huge step up for my career? She cried, said she couldn't leave her family, her friends, her church. I caved, stayed put, stagnated. Now, I see it as another calculated move, keeping me tethered to Charlotte, under her control. My career was collateral damage in her game of emotional chess. I was sacrificing my ambitions for a woman who was already planning her exit strategy. Her Instagram feed was a highlight reel of carefully curated perfection. Blessed, grateful. Living my best life. Captions that masked a desperate need for external validation. Every filtered selfie, every staged brunch photo, was a cry for attention. A digital breadcrumb trail leading to, well, Chad, apparently. I was so busy trying to be the supportive boyfriend, liking and commenting, that I missed the underlying insecurity. The insatiable hunger for likes and followers that ultimately fueled her choices. It wasn't just my personal life that took a hit. Turns out, office gossip travels faster than a meme. The knowing glances, the awkward silences in the break room. It was clear everyone knew. Some probably pitied me. Others probably thought I was a chump. My reputation as a reliable, focused accountant took a nosedive. Suddenly, I was poor Mark, the guy who got cucked by Chad. It made it harder to focus, harder to network. Her betrayal had professional consequences, too. The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. I want a strong, independent man, she'd say, then resent me for working late. I need you to be more emotionally available, she'd demand. Then accuse me of being clingy when I tried. I want a partner who challenges me, she'd declare, then sulk for days if I disagreed with her. It was a constant push and pull. A never-ending series of contradictory expectations designed to keep me off balance, constantly striving to meet her ever-shifting demands. Those girl talks with her friends? I used to think they were harmless venting sessions, a way for women to support each other. Now, I realized they were strategic planning sessions, war councils where they dissected my every move, analyzed my weaknesses, and plotted their next course of action. They were probably the ones who convinced her I was possessive in the first place. I was being outmaneuvered by a team of female strategists, and I didn't even know the game was being played. Okay, I'm not proud of this, but here's where things shift. The red pill is a bitter pill. And it warped my perspective, no doubt. I started seeing women differently. Not as individuals, but as, well, objects. Walking collections of curves and assets. Potential sources of pleasure and problems. The genuine connection, the emotional investment, that was gone, replaced by a detached, almost clinical assessment. I know it sounds messed up, but that's where I was at. It was a defense mechanism, a way to protect myself from future heartbreak. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was being called possessive by a woman who believed she was entitled to my time, my money, my career, and ultimately, my entire life. Had I dared to scrutinize her actions with the same intensity, I'd have been labeled controlling, insecure, toxic. But when she did it, it was just caring or expressing her needs. The double standard was glaring, a neon sign I was too blinded by love or lust to see. Looking back, it's almost comical, the sheer absurdity of it all. She told her pastor I was possessive, while she was busy getting knocked up by Chad 3 weeks after I left. She tried to cover her guilt with a sermon, while I was sitting in the back row, processing the wreckage of our lives. The irony is so thick you could spread it on toast. But hey, at least it's a good story, right? A cautionary tale for any guy who thinks he can fix a broken woman. I was raised to be a provider, a protector, the strong silent type, to put her needs before my own. Chivalry, right? Turns out, chivalry is just a set of rules designed to benefit women. By trying to be the perfect boyfriend, I enabled her behavior, sacrificing my own happiness and well-being. Had I been more assertive, more self-centered, maybe things would have turned out differently. Maybe not. But at least I wouldn't have been played for such a chump. I heard through the grapevine that Sarah and Chad were already fighting about money. Apparently, Chad's charming personality doesn't translate into a 6-figure salary. And Sarah, bless her heart, has expensive tastes. I can only imagine the credit card debt they're racking up. The looming specter of daycare costs. The realization that raising a child is a lot more expensive than a designer handbag. Karma's a bitch, and she's apparently working overtime in Charlotte. Believe me, the temptation to meddle, to expose them, to unleash the hounds of hell was strong. But what would that accomplish? Lowering myself to their level? Giving them the satisfaction of knowing they still affected me? Nah, I chose a different path. I packed my bags, updated my resume, and focused on rebuilding my life, brick by dignified brick. They could have Charlotte. I was aiming for something bigger. Self-respect is a dish best served immediately. First thing I did? Ditched that soul-crushing accounting job and finally pursued my passion for photography. Started small, shooting local events, building a portfolio. Then, the Atlanta opportunity came knocking again. This time, no tears, no guilt trips. Just a one-way ticket and a middle finger to Charlotte. I doubled down on my finances, invested wisely, and started treating myself like an asset, not a liability. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I learned a few valuable lessons. Trust your gut. Red flags are there for a reason. Don't sacrifice your dreams for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. And most importantly, some women aren't looking for a partner. They're looking for a project, a provider, or a stepping stone. Now, I spot those types a mile away. My radar is finely tuned. And I'm not afraid to walk away. Do I regret it? Parts of it, sure. The lost time, the wasted money, the emotional toll. But would I trade it? Not a chance. I'm stronger, wiser, and more self-aware than ever before. I know my worth, and I'm not settling for anything less. The future is wide open, full of possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to see what it holds. No more back rows for this guy.